My philosophy is very simple. It's been transmitted by my mom, and for me, food is an act of love, and the garden is at the very center of this love. In this episode, we will celebrate what is so important to a Frenchman, or even to an Englishman, wild garlic.
Hello, my name is Adam Stone. I am one of the gardeners here at Le Manoir au Quat'Saisons. We are in our lovely mushroom valley at the moment. We are going to be focusing on our wild garlic that we have here. The mushroom valley is reminiscent of Raymond's childhood, where he was able to go into local forests and local woodlands near him and forage an abundance of foliage. And wild garlic is a fantastic variant that we can grow here in England as well. We also have primroses, wild strawberries, and of course our fantastic wild garlic in here in the mushroom valley. So why grow wild garlic? It's a fantastically versatile plant to grow here. You can use everything from the bulb, the leaves, and the flowers. So the bulbs you can have ready at the later parts of the season, but really what you're looking for most of the time is the fantastic foliage, the leaves. These will be ready just before the flowers, and you want to get them then because they're full of flavor and they will go over a little bit bitter once the flowers have come out. But worry not, the flowers are also edible, so you're able to use these as decoration on a lot of your dishes as well. So fantastically versatile and very, very easy to grow here in this part of the country. So a lot of people will relate to wild garlic as something you can forage in your local woodlands. Normally you'll find them on woodland banks or near a watercourse, but you can actually grow them at home. So some of the best tips for when you want to grow wild garlic at home would be that you want to have quite well draining but moist soil. You want normally somewhere similar to a woodland location, so normally somewhere quite shaded, and you will be looking to try and plant them around 4 to 6 inches apart at around a 2 to 3 inch depth. The best time to plant wild garlic, you're going to be looking for the autumn months, ideally between September and November. This is when the soil is going to be slightly cooler, and then it will give it a chance to establish itself before going dormant naturally over the winter months, before you can start harvesting in the early spring. Ideally, the time of year that we're in now, which is April, which you can see is a fantastic time to harvest your wild garlic in your garden. Wild garlic will be quite happy in a shaded area with quite moist soil, but the main pests and diseases that you're going to look for, slugs and snails will want to attack this. So if you could put any repellent down or nematodes down, that will help suppress these. But also you're going to want to try and make sure that your soil is not too sodden, because that can lead to bulb rot. But you might notice some brown spots on the leaves, and that is rust, which is a fungal infection. Just pick that out and then your wild garlic should be in a much better state. So when harvesting the wild garlic, you're going to look to try and take the leaves quite low down onto the stem. So you want quite a nice leaf shape, and then you're going to harvest that. But with the bulbs, you can also take the bulbs anywhere down the stem. You're most likely going to use the top of the bulb, and then the flowers, you can take them individually, but we would recommend probably taking the whole stalk and then using them just like this. However, if you're looking to use the subterranean bulb, you're going to wait until later in the season. Once the flowers have gone over, but you still have nice foliage, then you can dig them up and use those bulbs as well, like a small onion. So the Latin for the wild garlic is Allium ursinum, which is also known as bear's garlic. And the reason why this is given that name, it is well thought that once bears come out of hibernation, particularly brown bears, they would harvest and they would graze on the wild garlic in the woodlands around them to detoxify them, but also to get their energy levels up for the upcoming season after a deep slumber.
Hi, my name's Theo Selby. I am the executive sous chef here at Le Manoir au Quat'Saisons. Today we are cooking a wild garlic velouté here in the polytunnel of the gardens of Le Manoir. First off, we're going to start by sweating our onions and garlic in the pan in some olive oil. So we're going to try sweat that with no colour. So first off, on a low heat, you don't want any colour at all. So we're going to add the olive oil into the pan. I have some onions which I sliced earlier, and some garlic as well, but we're going to just start with the onions in there and add the garlic in just slightly afterwards. Just to make sure there's no colour, it's on a very low heat. We don't basically want to change the colour of the soup, we want to keep it quite fresh and vibrant in colour as well. And we're going to add a little bit of base seasoning as well, just at the start. It will help basically draw the moisture out of the onions to stop it discolouring as well. Add the garlic into it. While this is working, I'm going to just dice the potato down for this dish. It acts as a natural sort of thickening agent for it rather than adding sort of gluten into it or anything else. So the starch will naturally thicken the soup. So we're going to dice our potato down next. Doesn't need to be too military because it is a soup and it is all going to be blended in together. But what we want is basically consistent size in the potato, just so it cooks evenly. So yeah, I'm using wild garlic here because at this time of year it's absolutely everywhere. It grows early sort of spring. We can use the bulbs, the leaves, the flowers and the seeds as well, even later on in the season. And if you're a keen forager, it's great because it's a free product. And it's just really sort of seasonal and has great sort of flavour and natural good properties and nutrients with it. So I've picked it this morning as well. We're going to use the flowers just to garnish a dish. We're going to sweat the leaves in there as well. But we do use the seeds later on in the season. So basically when it goes to flower, the petals will drop off and there'll just be a seed left. We salt them and then we pickle them to use on the menu here for our 2 Michelin star restaurant as well. Wild garlic's quite a more sort of delicate flavour than your classic sort of bulbed garlic as well. Bulbed garlic can be quite intense and strong, almost slightly bitter, compared to the wild garlic, which is more sort of floral in flavour. Once you forage your wild garlic, we always wash it, especially for use in our restaurants. You have to be quite delicate with the flowers because they do get waterlogged and bruised quite easily, especially with the wild garlic leaves. So it depends what you're using them for, but with the bruising, it doesn't really matter because we're putting it into a soup here or velouté, but generally they do get waterlogged and they're quite delicate. So today we're cooking a velouté. The difference between a velouté and a soup, honestly, there's not too much difference. Velouté is almost like a French sort of terminology. It just means velvety. So it's basically the same. It's just a posher way of saying it, so to say. Onions and garlic have started to go slightly translucent. This will basically draw the natural sweetness out of the alliums. And then we're going to add our potatoes in. So we just add all the potatoes in, just nicely sort of diced, just nice and consistent in size. So they cook evenly, and we're just going to cook them till tender for probably about 5 to 6 more minutes. And then we'll use a lid as well, just to retain that moisture in the pan. Next up, we are just going to lightly chop down our wild garlic that we foraged this morning. I'm going to use the flowers as a garnish. I'm going to reserve the buds. Great ways of using the buds as well. You can pickle the buds as they are, just like this, or just eat them raw, but they have great pops of sort of garlic flavour in them. We don't need to be too gentle with this. It's all going to be blended down and sweated in for the soup. So nice sort of big chunky size. And that will just put straight into the pan with the onions and potatoes. I really like wild garlic when it's raw, especially sort of sweet, sort of young, delicate leaves as well. A great sort of flavour. So we're just going to increase the heat slightly. The reason why we do this is we want to keep the soup nice and green, but if we cook the garlic too long, it's going to go brown and discolour the soup. So we're just literally going to sweat it so it starts to wilt, and then we're going to add our water as well. We're going to add a little bit more base seasoning as well, so we're putting layers in as we cook. This recipe is actually vegan. Basically it's really sort of clean and vibrant in flavour, but you can add a little dash of cream or sweat your onions in butter if you want to make it a little bit richer. But it's really sort of clean, healthy soup, and it's really good for you, full of nutrition as well. Wild garlic is wilted down now. Then going to add our water. And we're just going to bring it to a boil just rapidly, and then we're going to blend it as well. I've chosen a few different garnishes today. Super seasonal, so we have English asparagus from New Forest. We have Jersey raw potatoes from the Isle of Jersey. They actually grow in Jersey because they have a great sort of sweet nutty flavour, but they grow in sort of sandy soil as well. And then we're going to finish it with small little baby wild garlic leaves, some picked wild garlic flowers, which I picked this morning, and a little bit of olive oil as well. And alongside it, just a roll of crusty bread that Benoit's kindly made for us this morning. So our soup's just come up to a boil, so we're going to turn off the heat now, and we're just going to blend it till it's nice and smooth, till our velouté texture. So you can have it completely smooth. It's entirely up to yourself on how you want to serve it, to be honest. Personally, I like it quite smooth, and then we've got a few little garnishes in the bowl for the texture as well. Basically, we just pass the soup off or the velouté off just to make sure there's no any unwanted sort of texture in there, chunky onions or sort of potatoes. And then if you need to, you can just help it through with a ladle as well. I've just passed off my wild garlic velouté. Just taste it for sort of seasoning at this point and check it for body. So you can sort of see that the potato's done its job, the starch is thick in the soup, but we'll just check it, finish it with a little bit of salt and black pepper if we need to. I'd use it for 3 days, but if you freeze it, it'll last for 3 months in the freezer as well. It's a great one to make in advance if you're making sort of big batches, especially if you want to have wild garlic any other sort of later time in the year. If you were to choose this as a starter, I'd go with something quite seasonal for a main course. We currently have lamb as our main course. We also use it with wild garlic as well. We have a wild garlic puree on that dish where we make it in oil with the leaves. So we're just going to plate the soup now. We're going to take a few of our Jersey roll potatoes I just cooked earlier. We are going to dress them with a little bit of olive oil and some light seasoning as well. Going to do the same with the asparagus. We're going to put a little bit of chives and shallots on there just for a little bit of an extra sort of allium flavour with it. Just going to finish the potatoes and asparagus just with a little bit of seasoning, so rock salt, black pepper and a little bit of good quality olive oil as well. And we're just going to give that a mix just to make sure the seasoning and the shallots and chives are sort of evenly distributed. And then we're just going to now start plating, so going into the bowl. So just in a base of the bowl, we're going to take a few of the potatoes and then a few of the spears of asparagus as well. I'm just using a seasonal garnish here, but you can really use anything that you want. You can use the new seasoned peas that are in. We can throw some croutons in there as well. So in our bowl with our potatoes and asparagus, and then we're just going to finish it with a few of our garlic leaves as well and a few flowers. You can serve it in a separate jug, which I'm doing today. So we're just going to ladle the soup into the jug. Great, so we have our wild garlic velouté with our Jersey rolls, asparagus and wild garlic flowers. Here we are, we have our wild garlic velouté served with some seasonal Jersey rolls, wild garlic flowers and some asparagus from a new forest. And today we're just serving it with some crusty white baguette as well.